So tonight I'm going to be giving an overview on teaching the possessives, which is found on the lesson page 116 in your training companion guide. And I will also demonstrate a few instructional strategies for teaching the skill, as well as some tips for sentence work and extension activities. So when teaching this page, there are two vocabulary words that your students may or may not know that you'll want to cover at some point. One is what a possessive is, and the other is what a noun is. So the first is a possessive. For older students, you could define it as a noun that shows possession or ownership. And you could go on to explain that the word possessive comes from the root word to possess. And when you possess something, you own it. Now, for younger students, it may be more appropriate to use the wording from the teacher notes right here at the top of the lesson page that says adding an apostrophe to a noun can also show ownership. And a noun is a person, a place, or a thing. Now, the bottom of this page has sections to work on possessives. The top of the page works on contractions, which was part one of what I did a couple weeks ago. And that you can find in the Tools in 10. There is a section on homonyms and advanced work for older students. There is a section on using its with an apostrophe or its without an apostrophe. And then there's a section at the bottom about singular possessives in short phrases and sentences. It's important to teach the difference between its with an apostrophe and its without apostrophe. So while we use apostrophes to show ownership for nouns, we don't for personal pronouns like it, her, his, my, and our. Using the word its with an apostrophe, that is a contraction for it is or it has. And that is covered in the top section of this page. So you would teach that contractions part before you would teach the possessive part. Some examples are, it's going to rain today. It is. Or it's been a long and cold winter. The its contraction is short for it has. It's without an apostrophe is a possessive pronoun. Some examples include the dog chewed on its bone. The snake shed its skin. So the bone belonging to the dog and the skin belonging to the snake, using the possessive pronoun its. And there's a section right here that gives you a little practice on when to use its for it is or its as a possessive pronoun. There are some different ways that you can introduce this skill of possessive, and also some word study activities that you can do, and I will demonstrate those shortly. So you could use letter tiles, where you insert an apostrophe to change the plural noun to a possessive noun, and you add a word to show what it owns. You can also use flip cards, where you change a plural noun to a possessive noun by folding the flap over. And you can also do a two-column word match where you match a possessive noun to the words that they could own. And I will show you how you can do that. So we talked about apostrophes and their use when we were talking about contractions. And we said that we can use this guy, an apostrophe, to shorten two words into a contraction. And the apostrophe takes the place of the letter or letters that were in the second word. So I have it is, and I want to make it its. And that apostrophe takes the place of that I to make its. So now we're going to talk about how we can also use apostrophes to show ownership. Somebody owns something. I'm going to build the word dogs. And dogs has an S at the end. And what does that S mean? That's right. That S means there's more than one dog. If I didn't have that S, that would stand for one dog. When I add that S, that means more than one dog. Well, I can use this apostrophe to show that this dog owns something. An apostrophe S, it says dogs, but we're talking about one dog and it owns something. What could a dog own? That's right, a dog could own a bone, right? Bone. The dog's bone. One dog owns the bone. So maybe the dog's bone was in his dish. The bone belongs to the dog. Here's another word. Let's read that word. Crab. Crab. If I add an S to it, it becomes crabs, meaning more than one, to show. You can also use flip cards to show the difference between plurals and possessives. This first one, we have the word moms. We have an S at the end because it stands for more than one moms. There were several moms in line to pick up their kids from school. When I flip this over, we have an apostrophe S. This stands for one mom, and she's showing ownership. Moms, what could mom own? Mom's phone, mom's car. That shows ownership. More than one, plural, ownership. Tims. There could be more than one Tim in your classroom, more than one boy named Tim. There were 3 Tims in my classroom this year. Now, with the apostrophe S, it shows ownership. Something belongs to Tim. Tim's what? Tim's backpack, Tim's lunchbox, shows ownership with that apostrophe S. You can also do a 2-column word match, but this is a resource that was made where you can do this 2-column word match, and you can have the child match up the possessive to what that possessive would own. So for example, here I've cut them apart and I have plants, moms, kings, dogs. So plants, moms, kings, dogs, and ducks. And we're going to match them to what they could possess over here. We've got a bone, we've got a ring, we have eggs, a throne, done. I think I've got all the matches here. So they would go through, they could highlight that apostrophe S that shows ownership, the plants, meaning one plant, and what could belong to the plant? The plant's bone? No. The plant's ring? I don't think so. The plant's eggs? No. The plant's throne? The plant's stem? That seems like a magic plant has a stem. That's right. And they can go through and match up the possessive noun with what that possessive noun could own. They can highlight the apostrophe S, mom's eggs, mom's ring, that might work, mom's ring, king's eggs, king's bone, king's throne, yep, that works. Dog's bone, duck's eggs. And you can do that activity where they are matching them up. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about some sentence work. So at the very bottom, you have some phrase and sentence work that you can do with the student. So some things that you can do is have the student underline the possessive noun so they can find the word that has that apostrophe S. They can highlight the apostrophe S, and then they can draw an arrow from the noun to what the noun owns. For example, Jake's truck, and they could draw that arrow from Jake's to the truck. Hen's eggs, Ken's car, the cat. So here is another resource that was made where you can do some work with sentences. And this one focuses on possessives and plurals and knowing the difference. So the directions at the top say to add apostrophes where they are needed for the underlined possessive nouns. Now, not all of these are possessive nouns. So the student would have to decide if it is a possessive or not. Then draw an arrow to what the noun owns. And then after marking and reading these cards, you can dictate these sentences for writing, or you can play tic-tac-toe with them. So if you're working on this page, so add apostrophes where they're needed for the underlined possessive noun. So they would read their sentence. 6 homes are for sale. And the underlined word is homes. Is that a plural or is it possessive? Does the home own something? Is it showing that the home owns something? No, it doesn't look like it. 6 homes. So we're talking about more than one home. So we wouldn't mark this one. How about this one? Mom's phone rang twice. Moms is the underlined word. Does this show mom owning something? Yeah, it looks like mom's phone. It's one mom. She owns the phone. We're going to put that apostrophe there. And let's draw an arrow from mom. She owns the phone. And so on. Dad's truck is tan and white. Is it more than one dad? Or does dad own something? Dad's truck. Dad owns the truck. We're going to put the apostrophe S and draw the arrow there. And you could do that for all of the sentences on this page. And then when you're done with that, you could either dictate these sentences for the student, a few of them, not all of them, but a few of them. And how you play tic-tac-toe is you simply follow the directions for how to play tic-tac-toe. You can find directions in the very back of your training companion guide for the different games. One person is X's, one person is O. You take your sentences that you've already marked and you mix them up and you take turns. Your opponent would read the sentence. The word is bikes. That's the underlined word, bikes. And they would read it to you and they'd say, the bike's lock is rusty. The other player would have to decide if that word bikes is a singular or is a possessive, or if it's a plural word. The bike's lock is rusty. Is it talking about more than one bike? Or does that bike show ownership? The bike's lock. It sounds like the lock belongs to the bike. So bikes is the possessive, and so that would be the apostrophe. So they would decide where they want to put the word, and they would write the word bikes. And then they would decide that there needs to be an apostrophe there. The bike's lock is rusty. And then they put their X or their O, and then the other person would go. So you remember whoever's turn it is to put the word on the grid, the other person is going to read that sentence with the underlined word to them. So Ben's truck is in the shop. The underlined word is Ben's, and the other person would decide whether that word is a possessive or if it's plural. Is it more than one Ben, or does Ben own something? Ben's truck. Oh yeah, Ben's truck. The truck belongs to Ben, so it's Ben's, and they would spell Ben's, and he shows ownership. It's his truck, So we put that apostrophe and they would put their mark. And you would just continue that way, each taking turns reading the other person, the sentence with the underlined word and deciding if it is a possessive or a plural.